What's up, guys? So I want to make a quick video talking about seasonal affective disorder and some things you can do to combat that. So I posted yesterday in my story about its effects on neurotransmitters, specifically serotonin. Talked to lots of clients about this. People are pretty familiar with SAD or seasonal affective disorder at this point. So what are some things you can do? People talk about, well, take extra vitamin D. Yeah, that's one of them, but there are some other things you can do and consider when you realize like what it's actually doing. So a couple things to consider here. So just the lack of sunlight is a big one. The less daylight during the day, that's going to be a big issue. So that's where a lot of your lack of vitamin D production is coming in. So you can obviously supplement with extra vitamin D. And I get vitamin D through one of my other supplements. My Morph Omega supplement has vitamin D in it, then I add additional on top of that depending on my needs. Now I posted kind of a little case study that I did on vitamin D with clients and different serum levels of 25 hydroxy vitamin D, and you can check that out. That's on my Instagram and on my Facebook. I don't believe it was in my story. It should have been in my actual feed, so you can find that. And it kind of talks about dosages and differences in people and what dosages people might need. And your typical like 5,000 IUs probably isn't enough, especially in the winter months. So like right now I currently supplement with it's over 15,000 IUs a day. Now I'm inside, don't get a lot of light other than my sun lamp, which I'm going to talk about here in a second. And 15,000 brings me up into mid to high normal range, give or take. So keep that in mind. Go check that post out, give you a little more insight on that and see what I did with that case study. Also, neurotransmitters. So I mentioned serotonin. Also, supplementing with items that increase dopamine seems to make quite a big difference. So seasonal affective disorder can impact production of neurotransmitters, and a lot of that comes in with the light production, obviously, or with the lack of light, obviously, lack of daylight. And one thing that I do with that is I will, and I don't do this daily, probably 5 days a week, just depends on what my day entails, but I'll supplement with something like L-Dopa, which will help raise dopamine levels, and I may supplement with like 5-HTP at night if I need for extra serotonin. L-tyrosine is also good for dopamine, and that would be taken more during the day. So you can boost your serotonin during the day. I mean, people that have depression, people that need like serotonin reuptake inhibitors, for example, they're going to use these during the day a lot, but sometimes it just makes people kind of tired, and so you might want to mess with it. Maybe take a smaller dose during the day. If you're going to use something like 5-HTP, potentially take maybe 50 to 100 milligrams during the day, and if you want to use it at night, it also will help relax you and typically help with sleep, and it's going to be more, you take a little bit more, 200 to 300 milligrams. Some people use even more than that, though I always say with when manipulating neurotransmitters, just hammering them is not always the best idea, so it's not necessarily a more is better situation. But with L-Dopa or Dopa Mucuna, it's depends on the extract, 500 milligrams, maybe 1,000 milligrams, 1 to 2 times a day, morning, early afternoon type of thing. I also will use this product, so use Morphobrain from Morphogen Nutrition. So within here, you're already getting the L-Dopa and you're getting L-tyrosine in here also, but it's also helping with choline levels. It has lion's mane, it has some huperzine A, it has some phenylpyrrolase tam, and a couple other ingredients. So it's going to give you like an overall cognitive boost, hence the name of the product. This is a good product. I don't use this daily. It is something I'll use maybe a couple times a week, depending on, like I said, depending on what the day entails. And that will definitely help with that neurotransmitter production. Also, just being exposed to light and trying to maintain a good a good light exposure habits during the day. So more in the morning, less at night, less artificial lights at night. I mean, stuff that people know, like, wearing blue light blockers is a pretty common thing now. A lot of people do it. A lot of people use things like the Flux app on their computer, and I think that's the one that I have. And then, their phones have blue light filters. People wear blue light glasses. So I mean, all that stuff is good. It's just that at night it's also getting darker so much earlier depending on your region that it makes you more tired because melatonin production. So, and your body's ready to go to sleep when it gets dark. People might notice that in the winter it gets dark so early, they sit down, they're done, they're ready to go to sleep. So kind of you can manipulate your light through something like a sun lamp, and then obviously shut down the artificial light at night. Shut down the blue light at night, wear your blockers, and that's going to help. Even changing your training schedule. Like I know this isn't always possible for people depending on what their job entails, what their life entails, but some of my clients, like I even suggest, they're getting tired earlier at night because of the lack of daylight, because it is getting darker earlier, especially when you add something like daylight savings time in, depending on if your area has it or not, it's getting darker even earlier. You might just consider going to bed earlier and getting up earlier. Training in the morning, going to bed earlier at night, you might feel better, be more productive throughout your day that way, and not have to worry about, training late at night when you're just dead tired, it's really dark, your body wants to shut down. So something to consider there, kind of working with your circadian patterns, working with your neurotransmitter production, and potentially feeling better and having more productive training that way. So adjusting your schedule around light, essentially. Okay, so with the sun lamp, here's the one I have. Just put it over here. It's called Veralux brand, Happy Light. That's what it says on here. I think this one is, I'm trying to think of the 1,000 lux or something like that. Let me double check. 10,000. I'm sorry, I believe it's 10,000. And this is just simulating sun. It's a sun lamp, more or less. It is a type of artificial light. I'll plug it in like on the back of my desk or the back side of the table, so it's pointing towards me. I'm not like staring directly at it, but it's pointing towards me. It's getting into my eyes. Now, with the lamp, I would typically in the summer, I typically just use it in the morning. Just throw it on while I'm doing client emails or while I'm doing stuff in the kitchen or whatever it is, maybe 30 to 60 minutes. But now in the winter, I'll actually use it usually afternoon too. So if I notice I'm getting a dip in that, that kind of afternoon slump, especially if I know it's going to start getting dark in a few hours, I will add it. I'll throw it back on for another 30 to 60 minutes and kind of get that second jolt of light exposure. Whereas in the summertime, I don't necessarily do that. But yeah, this is good. Relatively inexpensive. I mean, for what it is, there are some pretty expensive ones on there. Like if you look on Amazon or online, and there are some kind of cheaper ones. You just want to make sure you get one that has enough juice to it. So I think, like I said, I think this one's a 10,000 lux, LUX, and you can look online and find that. It has 2 variable settings on it. Just has that's it. So has one that's a little bit brighter than the other, and pretty basic. Other than that, stick it on the corner of the desk and let it do its thing. So again, guys, if you are battling with seasonal affective disorder, there are some things you can do. You can increase your vitamin D intake. Like I said, I would go check out the little case study that I posted, or my personal case study. You can manipulate your neurotransmitters to some extent. Like I said, potentially a product like this, like the Morphobrain, or even just L-Dopa, or like 5-HTP or tyrosine, depending on if you want to manipulate a single neurotransmitter or all of them. And also working your schedule around your light exposure and around the light. A great podcast that we did on the OPD podcast with the owner of Raw Optics. He makes the blue light blockers that we typically suggest. Matt Maruka, I think that's how you say his last name. He talks about kind of doing that and manipulating your schedule around light exposure. And it does make a difference. It genuinely does make a difference in the way that you feel. I mean, sunshine, being out in the sun, is not being out in the sun to where you're getting tired, but actually having light coming into your eyes versus just sitting in darkness all the time is definitely going to make a difference in the way that you feel. So if you can do that through manipulation of light with like your sun lamp, or potentially going to bed earlier when it's getting darker earlier, getting up earlier, changing your training schedule to, anything that you can do within reason, within what your actual schedule allows and what your lifestyle allows with your family and job and what have you, can be helpful and make you more productive and make you feel better. So again, check out the study of my story on serotonin, check out my vitamin D case study, check out the lamps, check out Morphobrain, all that good stuff. And you can definitely improve your seasonal affective disorder.